I want to welcome everybody. I am going to be teaching you how to make these beautiful flower hanging decor. They can be char charms or they can be purse charms, wall hanging, however you want to use them, but we're going to learn how to make these step by step and give you suggestions and tips on how to make your own and the variations of how to do them, okay? Now I'm going to go over the materials that you're going to need to create these flower charms. I will be using 0.8 millimeter nylon cord. And I will be using a 60-inch cord that is going to be the one that goes around our flower. That's going to be about 60 inches approximately. And we're going to have another one that is going to be about 32 inches approximately. And this one is going to be for the hanging part. So we're going to have two cords, size 60 inch and 32 inches. Okay. For the beads, I will be using 10 millimeter beads of the color choice you would like, and some decoration beads that you can use. Make sure that your beads the hole is big enough to fit through the cord, sometimes twice or once. Okay, that is very important. If you want to make them a certain length, you will be using your measuring tape or to cut your cord according to the length, as well as some cutting tools, your scissors, and your lighting device, which I cannot show on TikTok, but it is to burn off the ends. You can do that. Okay, I'm going to be demonstrating on how to start it with being on the table, a flat surface, as I suggest you using a board. And if your board has a nail at the top of it, or you can put a nail on it, that would be the best. Okay? So now we're going to go into the step-by-step on how to start the flower charm. Okay, so first we're going to go take our 60-inch cord that we have, and we are going to string on 6 of the 10 millimeter beads. Okay, we're gonna put on the cord your 6 beads like this. With the beads that you choose, I do suggest a 10 millimeter and up. This will give you a good size flower charm. You decide how big your charm's going to be. If you decide that you want bigger beads, you want to make sure you add a little bit more cord because you're going to need more to go around the bigger beads, okay? So once you have your 6 beads on there, what I want to do is I want to measure out about 14 inches or 15, okay, on one end. So I'm going to get my measuring tape, and it's going to be approximate. It doesn't have to be exact. So I might need more here. Okay, but definitely over 14 inches. Okay, so that way I know right there, once the 14 inches are there, this is the point where I'm going to put them together, okay? And this is how you're going to put them together. There is the longer one, so my left side is my shorter side. Then you're going to have this big, long rest of your 60-inch cord that you have cut for this flower. So this is going to be the tricky part for a lot of people. It was for me. And the reason why I don't like to do the knot first is because you can see, and at the end when you do the knot, then you start doing around the flower lark knots, it creates this twisted part where the lark knots are not going to fit. They're not going to go the right direction, okay? So I don't suggest you do a knot and tie it off there. So this is going to be the hard part, trying to hold it. Your short side should be on the left side. Okay, this is my short side. I'm going to have it on my left. And then I have my longer side on the right. I am going to do my first lark knot. You know how we go on top first, and then I'm going to go underneath both of these strings, and I'm going to pull this, but hold on to your short, make sure your short side, you're holding it, and you're holding this part right here, so that when you pull, you're going to pull it all the way through. You're going to pull it all the way until it closes. Okay? Right there. So you did your first one on top. Okay? This is where you're going to have to hold it really well, because your next one's going to be underneath. Okay? Now, holding it like this, with your hand like this, I always suggest that if you're going to do it on a flat surface, because it needs to kind of tighten a little bit, is you're going to go underneath. So you're going to grab the underneath, and you're going to put it, the long one, the right one underneath, you're going to put it through this way, because we did the top one first. And now, in that loop right there, we're going to put this one in through that way, okay? This one in through that way, okay? It's always the first one. And that's going to create, you want to make sure that this is tight. Tight right here. Hold it there. And then you're going to make this your first lark knot. And you want to make sure that it's tight. Okay? Tight. Right there. Once you have it this way, it's going to be easier. Okay? Now, if you have a pin, if you have a board where you can pin it down, that's the best way. And you can tape this down, okay? And when you tape it down, I suggest that you can even put a pen or a pencil underneath, so that when you are doing your lark knots, you have the cord lifted from the table. So that way you can continue doing these top, and then putting the cord down the bottom of both of those strings. So going through here, you always go on top first, and putting it through here, okay? And that is your first part of the second lark knot that you're going to do, and you're going to bring it to the top here and tighten it. And now to complete that lark knot, you're going to go underneath, up, and through this loop, down through this loop, okay? All right? And that's what you're going to do if you're going to do it on your table, okay? So I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to show you how that is looking. You see your lark knots like that? That's what they should look like. Right there, you already have one, and then two, okay? One and two. So you have two completed, okay? So in order to surround the bead, you have to make enough to where it's going to arch the whole bead around. Okay, again, I'm going to do this with the table so that you can see, and then I'll move to the board on the second round, the second bead, so that you guys can see. All right, so this one, it has two, so now we're going to go on top, right? So we're going to do this on top. Then we're going to pull this part that's on this side, we're going to pull it through the bottom, right? So we're going to get this to go through the bottom, and we're going to pull it all the way through, and make sure you keep this tight on this side, and then you're going to go all the way up. Okay, that's one top. And then to complete that knot, to make it our third lark knot, I'm going to go underneath the opposite way, and then now I'm going to put this down through this one that's over here, which is down the loop, right? So that when I pull it, and it doesn't get stuck on the pen or pencil you have, I'm going to pull it, and then when it gets here, you always want to put the pressure down here so that you can close it. Okay, and that's how you would do it if you have it on the table. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make enough to go around. With me, I calculated that 8 of these complete lark knots will go around my bead really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to make all of these lark knots until I reach a total of 8. And when I mean 8, I mean sets of these two. So 1, 2, 3 I have here, which means I did 6 knots, 1 on top, 1 on the bottom, 1 on top, 1 on the bottom to close that, 1 on top, 1 on the bottom. Okay, so I will repeat this until I have a total of 8 lark knots right here. Okay, which means I'm just going to continue the same thing, going on top of this, then coming through this little opening here. That's my first one. Always start on top when you're going to start your knots, and then coming down underneath the base string, and then pulling it and putting it through this opening here to come out the bottom. Okay, that's your completed one. Okay, so work on those 8 lark knots, and when we get to finishing the 8, I will show you how to connect to your bead. Okay, so once you do your 8 lark knots, as you see here, make sure that your lark knots are nice and good, and you're going to grab the shorter end, you're going to put inside the flower into the next space in between the beads, and don't pull it out this way. You're going to go through here, and you're going to join. That is considered your first top lark knot. Okay, now with this one on the left, now you can go underneath, and finish off that lark knot. So you go underneath, and right when you get this loop right here, then you're going to pull it through that. Okay, it wants to twist, but you don't want it to twist. Then you're going to pull this through that. So that will connect. Watch. So once you make sure that this one's tight, and then now this one will now connect. that part. Okay? And now you're ready to do your other lark knots. Okay, you see how that connected that there? And now you're ready to continue the same thing and going around. So now I'm going to switch to my board for those that have a board. And I'm going to add this to the top of my nail that I have here. I have a little nail. Okay, and I'm going to take my short string and I'm going to clip it on the other side. Okay, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to clip it with a clip like this on the other side. That's going to hold my flower in place. And now I can continue with the knotting. So I'm going to do these 7 or 8, depending on how deep this one goes. You might have to do 8 total or a total of 9, you know, to complete, meaning the first one and 8 more. But we're going to see, you have to see and work with it to see if you need one more knot or not, depending on how deep your other one went. Okay, and this is where you're going to continue that knotting. Okay, so you go top, loop through 1, and then on the bottom, and then through down through that loop or that big area that's open, and that gives you 1 lark knot. So do you see how having that nail on your board and clipping it on your board is better than the table? But I demonstrated both just in case some of you didn't have a board yet. Okay, so we're going to continue to do that. And I will show you again, for those that missed, how to connect in between as soon as I reach my lark knots like this. Okay, so now I'm going to count. How you count your lark knots are going to be through this here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to do another one because the first one is 8. But I'm going to do another one so that I can see if it's going to surround my bead the best way. Okay? Okay, so that's my last one. 2 half lark knots could do one like this. And now I'm gonna just grab the flower and I'm going to go around it like this. See, I think I may have done one too many, but let me show you what one too many might look like. So I'm gonna undo this from my board. This one's gonna go now inside the flower, okay, inside the flower, and I want it to come through the other side and fall in between that bead right there, right? And then I'm going to pull this short side through this area right here, okay, through that open area, so that when I pull it through, that's going to be the first one to connect. Okay, and do you see how that kind of looks? That's kind of loose. I don't want it to be loose. Okay, so that means that I made one too many, just one too many. Okay, so now I'm going to just undo. Make sure you undo both of them. There's one, and the last one, the last knot. And that's how you're going to be able to use any type of bead that is going to be on your decoration, because you will be able to identify if you've done one too many knots. Okay, because I don't want my petal around it or my surrounding border to be too loose. Okay, so now that I've undone it, I'm going to do this, come through this right here in between that bead, and I'm going to pull it, and then I'm going to secure it by pulling it, and that gives that nice little frame. You see how it's nice? It's not too loose. You're too loose, you don't see a gap. So now I can place it back here, and I'm going to put it back on my board. And then right on this one, since we went on top, we're going to just do on bottom. To complete. Okay, bottom. So the first one that you're doing in the bead is going to count like your top one. The second one you're going to do underneath. If you don't do the underneath, let me show you what happens. Okay, because I did this other one and I made a mistake of leaving it on there, and let me show you what it did. It did this. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but do you see how these kind of nicely go around and around like this? Well, look right here, I didn't do that and it overlapped. Do you see how it started from behind? So do you see that little thing where the next loop started kind of on top of it? And that's what we don't want, because then it's going to go and move around. And the reason why that happened was because here, and after I connected with the bead, what I did was start doing my lark knots, one on top, one on the bottom, one on top, one at the bottom. And that's what caused this little ridge that I did not care for, because it's not going to, you know, set straight like these are. Okay, so I adjusted that and I started the opposite. So I went inside the bead on top, and then my first one is on the bottom when I'm connecting these two, the arches, okay, when I'm connecting the border to the next section. Okay, so in each of the spaces in between, that's where we're going to join. And that's how you avoid that overlap. Okay, so now that you have done your connection and you started, you know, with the bottom one, now you can continue to now do the rest of the knots. And this is what you're going to be doing and repeating for each of the beads so that they can be surrounded or framed by the lark knots. Okay, so you decide how many knots are going to be a good fit for your bead, especially if you're using, you know, a bigger size. You might need more. Or if your tension, the tension has a lot to do with it as well. So you want to make sure that your tension, if you are someone that makes your knots maybe a little loose, then you're going to need maybe less knots. But if you're someone that has a very tight tension on your macrame, then that means that you might have to use a little more lark knots to frame that bead. Okay, so we're going to continue to frame these beads the same way. Okay, and having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 so far. I'm going to continue doing this until we get till the last section. Okay, so continue working on this and how we joined it, going all the way around, and I will meet you here at this point so that I can show you how to connect it. So don't connect it I'm going to go ahead and come back when I connect this, when I have this section done, so I can show you how to connect the end. Okay? Okay, so I wanted to stop and point something out for everyone that is doing this at home. What happens sometimes if you're using a board, this might be very short on the end to reach all the way to the end, right? That might happen. So what I suggest that you do is that you can put a string on this part of your flower and go through the middle like this. Like this. And then you can clip it on this side with another clip. Like this. And then you can bring this part, but you want to make sure it's clipped at a part where you can work straight. So that makes it longer. So right there, and that makes that longer so that you can continue clipping it on this side. Okay? You can clip it on this side. And that way it holds it in place for you. So that way it doesn't, it's not too short. That's one of the things you can do if this becomes very, very short. Okay, and also I wanted to point out how you can tell where it's the front of your design and what the bottom, the back looks like. Okay, so I'm going to do a very close up and see. This is your front. This is the front of your work. And look at the difference on what it looks like. This has like a little indentation here, and it's more deep than the other side has more of the curve to it. Okay, so you see that little curve on the back? That's the back. That's what the back looks like, that little curve. So this is the front and that's the back. Okay, so this will help you know where the front of your flower is. All right, so now I wanted to point that out. I will show you how to complete this flower part. Okay, so once we reach the end and we have the frame to go around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the same way by putting my shorter string through the middle and out this direction through this little section here, and it's going to go like this. Okay, now on this part that I have here that you see here, I am going to connect having this like this. Now I'm going to move this one here that I just did. I'm going to tighten it, and now I want it to go through this section here, right there. Okay, so I'm going to grab the one that was my shorter one and is on this side, and I'm actually going to bring it in through this area right here. Okay, so that opening right there, I'm going to put my cord in. Okay, I might want to use like a needle or a crochet hook or something. So through this part right there. So I'm going to grab a little crochet hook and I'm just going to bring it through the other side. Okay, because what's going to happen is, you see how it's on this side and then you have this hanging one over here. So when you put it on that side, what's going to happen is this. You see how nice and clean that looks? And now they're going to end up like this. So you're going to finish it the same way we've done the other ones. But because it's going to all both be on one side, that short one that you pull through, you want to cross it over on top and through this section right here and pull it down. And look how much cleaner that's going to look. That's a little thing I added to what I was seeing on the tutorials, the little short tutorials, because it was giving me everything on this side and it wasn't looking like I wanted it to. Okay, so that's how you're gonna pull it over, and you're gonna leave it like this. Okay, you don't want to tighten it, you don't want to tie it off or anything yet. Okay, all right. Okay, so now we're going to do the hanging part of your charm. Okay, we're going to create this part that goes here to add the middle bead. This is what we're going to be working on now. I'm going to put this here. And you're going to grab your string that we had for 32 inches, right? So we're going to grab that one. And what we're going to do, I'm going to move this set to the side until I need it. So now what you're going to do is you're going to measure about 3 inches, 4 inches, depending on how long you want your hanging part to be. That's up to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab around where I want it to be. And right here, I'm going to create some kind of overhand barrel kind of looking knot, okay? So what I'm going to do here, you can do any type of knot. You can do a regular knot, you can do a barrel knot, you can do a snake knot, whatever it is that you want to do, okay? For this one here, I created kind of like a barrel knot. And then here for this one was also a little barrel knot, which I thought was just, it looked cute. But you can do any type of knot that you want to do, or that you feel like it will look good on your. Let me show you what I did to mine. So I'm going to pinch where I want the knot to be, and I'm going to go around my finger twice, and then I'm going to put this part through here. Okay, so I'm going to grab this part and pull it through here. And now I'm going to let go, and then I'm just going to now this, because it has two, you have to kind of work it and push it and move it, make it go, kind of twist a little and keep going. You can choose to do it with a straw. I mean, if you want a little more uniform one, but you can get it as nice even with your fingers, okay? It's just a matter of making them, working the cord, okay? So that's your little barrel or overhand knot. Okay, so now I'm going to grab any bead that you want to use. Okay, I'm going to grab this spacer like this. I'm going to grab that, and you want to make sure that you have like little needles like this made. I do have a video on how to make these on my TikTok profile. And you're just going to make sure that your bead fits through both. So I'm going to come through both of these, and they're going to go through, and I'm going to pull all the way till to the knot. Okay, then I decided that I want to do this bead That's the same as the flower petals, right? That we're using on that, on the one we're doing. I am going to put these through. I'm going to start again. Now when you get to this side, I'm just going to go ahead. I tried doing a barrel knot, but it didn't work for the demonstration purposes. So I'm going to just go ahead and finish that off with a regular overhand knot. I just didn't have the right tools in front of me to make it work. So I'm just going to push this all the way to the base of that bead that I have there, like this. And then I'm going to pull each individual strand to create that knot, okay, to secure it there. All right, so now after we have that decoration on there, you have your hanging area here. Now we're going to grab the one that we're working on, and you're going to find the opposite side of where you, sorry about that, you guys. So now we're going to take this part and we're going to go opposite on this side, and we're going to go here. Going to split those cords. Then I'm going to grab those cords and I'm going to put my bead through these two cords, my middle bead, okay? So this is going to be your middle bead. I'm going to use blue to match my string. What I'm doing is I'm putting them through, but I have a bent thing here, so I'm trying. It happens to all of us. Our beads just want to roll off in the middle of a demonstration. All right. So for those that are watching this on YouTube, this is an actual live class, so it's hard to take away all the mistakes that are happening. Okay. So once you have it through the middle, there's two strings going through the middle bead like this. You're going to put it right in. You're going to pull this to make sure this is nice and close. And now you're going to take one apart and you're going to pull one through the back. Okay, so we'll see how this one goes. We're going to open them. Right? Learning opportunities. Okay, so now we're going to go through the back so that this bead ends up in the middle. So one of the strands goes to the back. Okay. That way you will see one of the strands, and make sure that it ends up right in the middle. So we're going to pull one. You have one in the back, one in the front. You want to pull that. Make sure it's in there. And you want to make sure they're tight enough like this. Okay? Like that. And then here, you're going to grab right there, all grabbing them all, making sure that this one here in the middle, they're all tight, everything tight like this, and taking these and creating an overhand knot. All right, so I'm going to be doing this knot right here. Overhand, go through here. make it as tight as I can. This is where you would use your tweezers, you guys, to make sure it's tight enough. My hands are shaky now. Okay. That is the knot that you would make like that. And then what you will do is now you're going to decorate it however you want. Okay, however you want. So at the end, I decided to put some bicones and some oval beads. I went ahead and strung them individually. There's 4 strands left for the hanging part. So I just put a little bicone and a oval shaped glass bead, faceted. I think that looks really pretty. I did a basic overhand knot and pulled it right to the area where I would like. So I visually check where I want it, and right where I want it, I want to pinch that area with my fingers and then move with my right the knot down to meet the area where I want it to end. And then what I'm going to do is I cut off the excess string and then burn it with a lighter so that it can be sealed and it won't fray. So I went ahead and I did this throughout the other strands. So I'm going to add the same decoration, but you guys can make these any way you like. Like I said, you can do different beads with different lengths, whatever it is, it's your hanging decor, so you decide how to get it done. I think it looks really pretty when I put all of those together, but that gives you an option. So I really hope that you enjoyed making this flower hanging decor with me. I really appreciate it. You can catch us on YouTube as ZulyBoutique Handmade Creations and on TikTok as ZulyBoutique.